All right, welcome back to Simple Healthy Life. We're always aiming to have real, insightful conversations. And MJ, today, I have a little bit of a interesting one for me. I've been thinking about it a lot lately. I obviously work with plenty of people who, have health goals, right? And you do as well. Um, the health goals are kind of like, well, I want a fit body, or I want to eat better, or I want to just improve my health, or whatever it ends up being. And as we talk more and I start to learn about people, and I learn a lot, I'm really grateful and blessed to be able to learn through people, through like mundane, everyday kind of activities. What I find is that I don't actually think people know what they want. I don't actually think that people are. I don't think they understand what they're looking for, right? Because as I even on just like specifically focused on like something like body, fitness or whatever. I want to lose weight, or I want to get this X body shape, and I don't actually think that matters to them. I don't think it matters to most people. In fact, I don't know who it matters to. Um, I think what people are really looking for a lot of the time when it's I want to lose weight, or I want to gain muscle, or I want to do this, I want to do that. I think what they're really looking for is some amount of acceptance, some amount of recognition. So they want to show that they are hardworking, or whatever other value they have, discipline. They want a sense of achievement. Some of them, and the trouble with it is that you point this out to people, and they can see that. I mean, that's not like anything new under the sun. But when we talk about the actions that we take to achieve a desire, so I try to eat a certain way, or try to move a certain way so that I get, the body I desire. The problem that comes out there is if you don't actually really care about the body, because it's kind of otherwise meaningless, then the actions that you're trying to take don't have a lot of purpose. And so then you don't do them. And then that is hard. It's hard. It's challenging to be like, I don't know why I can't, eat in this way. I don't know why I can't get to the gym. I don't know why I do want a better, I want this better body or better or whatever. But I just have such a hard time. Right. And, to do anything, you need a strong purpose, right? To show up to work every single day and do the thing, do something effortful. It does require at least a moderately understandable sense of purpose, even if that's just like, well, I want money, and then the money so that I can survive and take care of my family and stuff like that. Like that's a decent purpose. But when you're trying to take actions to achieve a desire that's unrecognized, it's never going to line up, right? So if the actual desire for someone on the weight front is, I want to be accepted better or more widely accepted by people, that I don't necessarily know if eating a certain way is going to lead to that. I don't know if going to the gym more is going to make you more accepted by people. And so like we've said before, or it's an idea that some people are slaves to their desires, of course, but I'm actually proposing that I think a lot of people are slaves to unrecognized desires. We take means for unrealized ends. We don't know why we're doing the things we're doing. And until we know why we're doing the things we're doing, at least at a like somewhat deeper level, a layer down at the very least, then maybe we'll actually be able to do the things that we want or ought to do.
Interesting. When you were talking, I just kept thinking of this same way you wrapped it up. Most people don't know what their why is. They have an impulse and they go, well, easy one, right? I want to get in better shape. Easy one, because I want to get in better shape. That's my why. Why? Well, because I want to.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. And then a week goes by, and then Thursday morning, it's 5:00. For the last week, you've been going to the gym. I don't want to. I just don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to, and maybe I want to again tomorrow. Maybe I'll have a little more motivation tomorrow. Maybe I don't want to. The fit body thing, I wanted to do that last week, and I did pretty good. But today, now I want to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
To your point, I think we do that on all things. I think literally, it's almost like a no-brainer. So you're like, I want more money. Why? Well, because everybody I see on TV, there's money seems to be pretty successful and look like they don't have any problems and their life is good. Okay, good. Perfect. I want more money too. And then you're like, well, go ahead, get 2 jobs. They'll have more money. No, I don't want the money that bad. You know what I mean? Like, and they're like, well, no, I want more money because money for me equals security. And if I have enough money, then I don't have to feel like I'm ever going to be in a spot where I can't provide for my family or can provide for myself.
Mm.
And I really feel like money for me, and I'm just making this up, money for me at a deep level offers me freedom. And what I want is freedom. I don't want anybody dictating my time. I don't want anybody to do certain things. I want to feel free and secure. And for me, freedom and security come with money. So I need to figure out a way to be making money when I'm not there, be making money when other people aren't. We're like working all the time, money's coming. And that's my why. Wow. Now you're attached to something. Now you're like, whoa, if I do these things, I get freedom and security.
Mm.
That's a purpose, right? That's an ends, I think. Maybe not even, but we never get there. We only start with something and we go with this surface level why, then we move on. And like to your point, now we don't even know why we're doing it. We don't even think about it. We're just doing it. Surface level.
Right. If that's the, even if you get to the end goal, okay, I want freedom. Okay. Fair. Totally fair. So why are the means to get there 2-3 jobs and, not seeing your family and, all of these things? It's like reminds me of the story of that like Mexican fisherman, right? The Mexican fisherman, he's fishing off the shore of his little Mexican town, and he's taking the boats out during the day, and he's catching a fish or 2 each day, and then he goes home and he, plays guitar with his family and that kind of stuff. And he doesn't have much, but that's his life. And he's approached by I don't know, businessman, I suppose, and he says, "Well, you work hard, like you catch a fish or 2 a day. I mean, these are pretty rich waters. What we could probably do is we could get you a bigger boat, and you could take in hundreds of fish a day, and then you could actually sell them, right? And then when you actually save up enough money, then what you could do is you could go home. You could stay at home and play guitar with your family and spend all time, all day with them." And then the Mexican fisherman says, "Well, I catch a fish or 2 a day, and then I go home and I play. I already lived the life I want to live. Why are you trying to sell me something different?" Right? And that, obviously there's a better way to write it, or say it, but that's the essence of the story, is that we're being sold different means for ends that aren't real ends. And, perhaps if we want to be free, perhaps there are better ways to get there. Perhaps if we want to feel secure, there are better ways to get there. Perhaps the things that we value aren't the things that we might choose to value. And perhaps the desires we have aren't our desires to begin with. Perhaps there are other people's desires that we've just, said, "Hey, yeah, that looks good."
Yeah,
Mimetic.
I'll have that.
Yeah, I'll take one money, please.
Exactly. Exactly. Alan Watts, is my favorite. He said essentially like, what a waste it is to live your life doing things you don't want to do in the hopes that you can buy the life you want later.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, how many people are in that spot? Like, so many of us individually, so many are in that spot. And for an ends that we don't even know. Like, I mean, how many retired people do you know that are like, how many retired people do you know that are out living their retired life? Like they're doing it. They're like set their goal. They're doing their thing. I mean, I'm fortunate. I know some, but I know a lot that aren't.
Mm.
I know a lot that are retired that are like, oh, well, I would do this or that, but I can't physically, or I can't because I don't have someone to do it with, or I can't because I don't have the money to do it, and you just hope that they didn't work all this time to get all this way to be there. And for me, that's a hope that I'm certainly hoping that doesn't happen. But are we even aware of it?
Right. I had this client one time. He's actually like the father of a client that I was working with, and so he had like a little bit of a health incident, and I think he was like 64 or something. So he was like right on the cusp of your typical retirement, and he had ended up taking like a month or two off of work, and was talking to me during that time to kind of get some of his health things in check. And he'd been working his whole life, like a lot, right? Just kind of 45 years in the, with the post office or something like that. And he wasn't doing super hot on the health front. And so he ended up taking that month or two off to just kind of get things in order. And I was kind of talking to him, and he's thinking, well, once I get this in order in a month or two, which is like not really the best idea, but once I get this in order in the next month or two, I'm going to go back and finish out, X number of years, and then I'll be good. And it's kind of suggesting, well, maybe, 1 or 2 years isn't going to make much of a difference. I mean, maybe you should kind of like full time into your health journey now. Maybe you should just kind of take some time. You've been working hard your whole life. Okay, he kind of heard me out, but then, one thing led to the other. His leave was up, and he just kind of went back to work. And shortly thereafter, he passed away within a couple months of returning to work. And not to say that him working on his health would have changed anything, but it kind of is this like, it was really sad for me because how often do we do that? Even if we don't physically pass away, how often do our lives just kind of end at that? It's like I had this way of being, and then I retire, and what do I do now? I just kind of hang out, watch TV or whatever.
Have you seen this chart with its age, retirement age, and age of death?
Right, and people seem to pass away like soon after they retire.
It's almost directly inverse. Yeah. It's like people that retire in their early 50s live to be late 80s, 90s. People that retire in like 65 at the retirement age live to be like 67, 68, 70. It's like, I think there's a few reasons for that. Number one, I think when you're 50 I'm hoping that when you're in your 50s, you're thinking to yourself, I got to find a new purpose, right? Like, okay, I can retire. I did it. I did the thing, and I got some level of retirement. And it's more likely than not that you're making a choice based on education, right? You're like, I know I have enough money to do the things to live this long, right? I hope, or I'm planning on it. So planning on it.
Mm-hmm. So
I guess I got to figure out a purpose. I got to throw myself into something. I got to do a new thing, become a better person, find my grandkids, whatever. You get to 65, that's another, call it 15 years of living the same purpose, living the purpose of getting to this point. And now you're like, oh man, maybe I only have 10 years left, well, okay. Let's just, I think and it's not a conscious decision, I can't imagine, but it's out there. The stats back it up. And it does come down to purpose for me. At least it feels like it comes down to purpose, comes down to a reason for being. And I mean, for everybody, one of my best friends, his dad, same story you told. He decided that he was going to work 2 full-time jobs for the last couple of years so that he could retire. He'd would work for the Boston Globe, then he would sleep in his truck, and then he would go straight to work at the next job. Nobody saw him for, the last 18 months of his working career. He retires. He does the thing. He did all the thing. He gets pancreatic cancer and dies. 6 months, retired. Right? And listen, there's no way to say that there's no causation there. It doesn't. I'm not making that argument at all. I'm just saying for the last 18, what turned out to be the last 2 years of his life, he didn't live it. He lived it with this unrealized end. He just.
Yeah, and I think often when the conversation comes up around these topics, it's kind of like, yeah, it kind of is like they didn't live their life. Like, live your life. What is it like? Go vacation in Aruba. Like, like it kind of almost has that vibe, but I don't think that's what we're trying to say. In fact,
no.
I think someone could work exceptionally hard. And in fact, I think people should work exceptionally hard. I'm a big advocate. Work is love in a lot of ways. We can do a different podcast on that one, but
it can be, anyways.
Yeah, it definitely can be. The opportunity for that is there. But nonetheless, not even if you love what you do, but if you find a great meaning in what you do, then there's no problem with that. You could work till the day you die. And if it's worth dying for in some sense, then it is, right? If I died tomorrow, I work a lot. And if I died tomorrow, then, well, at the very least, I hopefully helped some people. And that is worth it to me, right? I don't necessarily, I'm pretty clear on some of my values. And one of them is, at the very least, is like helping others, right? And that activity, I don't know, have you ever done that? The values kind of based activity? You must have done that.
Yeah.
So values.
It's worth redoing, though.
I think every couple of years, your values change, right? When I was 7 years old, my values were probably like fun and candy and, I don't know, water slides.
Currently.
They haven't changed.
You nailed it.
The values I think this is an activity for everyone. So if you are interested in doing this, I would highly recommend it. I've done it a number of times. And what you can do is you can go and you can look up like a values list, right? Values are just that. They're valuable, kind of traits in some ways. They're the things that you attribute meaning to, right? Some examples would be like responsibility, discipline, accountability, control, order, structure, security, money, power, family, pleasure, contentment, goodness,
freedom, security, safety.
Yeah. There's hundreds of values. And for the most part, when you go through, you probably want to take a big list down and you want to chunk it down to 10. What you're not saying is that the other ones are unimportant, because all the values are valuable, right? That's that they're values, right? But what you're actually trying to do is you're trying to create a little bit of a hierarchy. You're trying to say, actually, when push comes to shove, what would I willingly choose? Not what would society choose, not what my mom would choose, not what my friends choose. What is important to me? And that's really, really hard for people to say, oh, this is important to me and me alone. In fact, there are people, I know that for a fact, who presented with this activity go on YouTube and like, what are the top 5 values? That is a thing. And we laugh, but that's the sad reality of the life of a left-sided brain where we're reducing things to how-tos, and we rely on everyone else to tell us how to live our lives. And if you don't believe that's the case, well, you're sadly misinformed, because you do. We all do it. So it's our goal to kind of like parent ourselves in some ways, to be our own self-guide, to exhibit some amount of self-leadership, and that's really, really challenging. So this is a good activity for everyone, because you'll sit with this list of 200 something values, and you're going to have a really hard time trying to determine your top 5. It's going to feel like you don't know what to do, but that's okay. You're supposed to sit with it, pick your 10. Okay. And what you're saying is that these 10 are most important to me. They resonate with me in some particular fashion. I don't know why, but they do resonate. Okay. It also doesn't necessarily mean that you are engaged with them deeply. If you value responsibility, it doesn't necessarily mean you're the most responsible in all the areas. It just means that it does something to you. If you feel it on the inside, okay, that's all you need to do. And so you can be engaged or disengaged. It doesn't matter. You pick your 10, and then you kind of highlight your 5, your top 5, right? If you were to die for something, what would it be, right? Alicia, I know her, like one of her number one probably is honesty. It feels so incongruent with her being to be dishonest that I think that she would rather die than to tell a lie. And I think that that's legitimately the truth. For me, what responsibility is up there, I can go back as to why, I can kind of like trace the why that might be important, but I don't actually know why that's important. I just have a feeling that it is. And so you're going to pick your top 5, and then you're going to remind yourself of these 10 and then the top 5, and you're going to look at that pretty regularly. You're going to get a good sense of like who it is that kind of drives you, because these things are so deeply impactful to us that, or at least should be, that then we can start making decisions based on those. And you are forced every single day. You're forced with a decision on your values, right? You're talking with someone, then some amount of conflict, and perhaps honesty and compassion are important to you, but do you know which one is number one? Because some people need the full honest truth, right? And maybe you don't. Maybe you're unwilling to do that because you feel compassion for them. You want to preserve their feelings, and so that's a very common
Great
scenario. And this kind of stuff pops up all the time. I had someone kind of loosely express that they were having trouble with growth, and so I'm kind of talking about their values. And they did this practice, and then they came back and they said, my values are contentment, stability, whatever. They were like
safety,
security. Yeah. Exactly. 100%. And, I was kind of looking at that. And I do value honesty. And I said, do you think that these values are the reason why you're not growing, kind of bluntly? And they got real quiet. It was like kind of awkward a little bit. Hey, that's why you have values, because that's exactly what happened. I said, I'm not going to preserve this person's feelings. I'm going to tell them like it is. And then eventually they're like, you know what, that actually hits pretty hard. And I said, yeah, I think that is the case. It's okay to value safety, security, all that kind of stuff. But you need to know what that means. You need to know what's subordinate to that and what you give up, right, in a lot of ways to that.
Yeah. And even just the exercise of looking at it will open people's eyes, will open your own eyes, and open my eyes for sure. And I think it's time for me to do it again. Another example just keeps coming up in my head is time versus money, or family versus money. Like you hear these people like, I value family over everything. And then you're like, well, where were you when putting your kids to bed? Because you weren't there. You were valuing money over family at that point. Not all the time, and I'm not saying it's like a black and white thing, but it can be eye-opening to a lot of people. Like you said, society tells us what we value, right? Like, oh, I want to say family because that's what society says I should say. Oh, I want to say freedom because whatever. But like, what is it that really resonates with you deeply? And then what are you doing? What are you actually doing? Are you living those values? We always kind of talk about like someone that's not living their values is like a negative, right? Or it's like a bad person, right? Like, I'm not living my values. Like, it doesn't mean you're a bad person by any stretch of the imagination. It just means that you've got away, you've drifted, or you don't even know.
Well, yeah, there's two options there. The family man working a lot, and he says he likes family, says that's his number one value. There's two options. One of them is that he's lying to himself and others, and that he actually values money over family. And that's a harsh reality. We'll do anything to not confront that. Um, the other option is that he's just misaligned, right? That his actions express the value of money, but he's misaligned for some other reason. The value of his exercise is going to really make him think. I mean, in both scenarios, they're going to really make you think. But like I said, in option number one, you'll be faced with that, and how you navigate that kind of makes a person in a lot of ways. Like, ooh, that's a really hard thing to hear, that I actually value money, power, sex, pleasure over pretty much anything else. You would be so strong to be able to accept that and hear that from yourself, right? What a strength. And that alone, even that recognition, I think would change your values, and the values aren't necessarily, I mean, it's not to say that not like, money, sex, power, or whatever. They're not like, they kind of are bad. They're not as like sustainable, but maybe we shouldn't have them as like top five. Perhaps we have them a little bit lower down the list, right? But anyone to give up everything for money, I mean, I don't know if that's great.
To bring it back to the beginning of the conversation, this is the unrealized ends, right? If you're like looking at this value list, and all of a sudden you're like, well, money, fit body, a big home, like all of these things are what you think you're after. You're not. Simply put, you're actually after something a lot deeper. You're after persona. You're after acceptance. You're after power. You're after, right? Whatever you're after is probably actually on this list. It's just you believe in your head that it's a fit body, more money, a new boat, all of these things, but it's all that stuff. It doesn't make you happy. Does it bring happiness to you? Can you be joyful? Like, and that's kind of what you were saying at the beginning, right? Like, look at this. Look at what the real ends is, and maybe those. And I think we both kind of stumbled onto this. Like, it might not even be the ends, right? It's the practice of, right? The practice of feeling gratitude, the practice of being joyful, of being accepted, of accepting others.
Right.
Those don't end.
When you take it as far down when the layers, go and go and go, and you reach the bottom of it, it probably is. Maybe we should live a life that we're not looking for ends, right? Kind of like you suggested, that there really aren't desires, and is very, very Eastern kind of philosophy too, right? Philosophy of the mind is that we don't necessarily want desires, because desires, we become slave to them, whether realized or not. And so, what is it that you can do? What would you be happy with doing and living? How would you live if you got nothing out of it? If there were no outcomes? If that you just worked hard because you worked hard, that was important to you. If that you just loved people, whether they did anything for you or not, right? Immanuel Kant has this idea of categorical imperatives, and what he suggests is that things are only good. It's only an ethical standard, I suppose, if when applied to everyone across humanity, it would make sense. So if good things are only good if everyone does them and it's good. Bad things are only bad if everyone does them and they're bad. So, for example, lying is bad, because if everyone lied, then the very thing that they use to lie with, their words, is eroded, right? You would actually never trust language, because everyone would be lying. It had no purpose. If theft, if like I asked you to borrow some money and I had no intention to repay it back, I'm kind of using you in some sense. If everyone did this, then lending wouldn't be a thing. You would never give money to people because you know that you wouldn't get paid back, right? And so trying to think about ourselves, if we're doing things that, we say, well, it's okay for me to do, but if we apply it to everyone else, and you can kind of say, well, if everyone did this, this is probably not great, right? And I think it's a great, I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about this lately. That's what that was, in our last podcast. I was like, I had all these great ideas and I come across these ones and I'm like, oh dang, I thought that was my idea. This is one of those where I was like, I think if I do things, if I live my life in a way that I would be happy other people did this too. If everyone did it, in fact, and I would approve of that, then I think I'm just going to do that from now on. And I'm going to try my best at the very least. I'm probably not going to be perfect, obviously, but I'm going to try to do that. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you being the best version of yourself and doing things for no outcome at all means that you can't use people as means. I can't say something to you and hope to get acceptance or money or anything. I'm not using you, MJ, as a means to an end. You are the end. If I want to show you appreciation, I show you appreciation. I don't show you appreciation so that I receive appreciation, right?
Right.
Anytime we use humanity as a means, there is something very wrong that happens there.
Yeah. They talk about, someone that I've listened to quite a bit talks about the excitement that you feel when you're doing something that excites you individually. If you can act on that excitement with no concern for the outcome, like the example that I use is like, I love playing soccer. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to act on this. I'm going to become the best soccer player that I can be. Not even with the intention of being a best soccer player. Like I just love it. I want to play. I'm just going to play. That is enough. You don't need more. It don't have to become a professional soccer player. You don't have to make money using soccer. Just act on your highest good and excitement with no concern for the outcome. And that will be enough. Mm-hmm. And we're never taught that. It's never the belief system. It's always got to know why we're doing it. Got to know why, not even why it excites me. We're not even asking that question. We're just like, well, why if I do this, then the ends is this, or this is a means of this. No. Simply put, try it one time. Just try it. Go do something that you love and just do it. No care about what the end is. That's it. That's enough. Mm-hmm. But that's not what society says.
Right. Yeah, that's why I'm kind of like, I've been a bigger fan of like, goals are an interesting one, because one part of me really just doesn't like the idea of it, because it kind of is an end. Like, I do this goal and then I achieve some end, and perhaps it isn't actually the best. Perhaps it isn't actually the best way to have that, because perhaps other things impede our goals. Although another part of me knows that we experience positive emotion in relationship to goals. So if I come closer to my goals, then, whatever. So I guess it's about having the right goals, and the right goals maybe just being like, what if your goal is just to play soccer, right? Like, what if your goal is just to love people and show appreciation no matter what? Even if they're like them, they don't treat you well at all, be like, yeah, I show love to them, whatever. I think those are really, I think it's an important thing to consider. Taking it back to the diet and health and body and kind of stuff, I try to get people to think about just the lack of outcomes around taking care of yourself, right? And for some people, their value isn't self-care, and it's okay. That's right. I mean, when I say that, I mean maybe their top 10 value, maybe self-care isn't in there, and that really is okay. Self-care is some level of priority in your list of thousands, maybe, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in your top 10, and that's okay. But can we think of other reasons why you're going to engage in healthful activities without that being as a value, right? And there are ways, right? For example, if someone really valued wisdom, maybe recognizing that you're eating really crappy breakfast and feeling like crap the rest of the day, and you continue to do that, you might recognize that as acting misaligned to your value of wisdom, learning from experience. My experience tells me every time I have this breakfast, I feel like crap and I'm like sluggish and slow and whatever. And so for you to recognize that, well, it would be wise to do something different, right? And you'd be actually expressing wisdom, not self-care, by changing it up. And so maybe that's more compelling to you, or perhaps connections important to you. So you have a hard time getting to the gym, but maybe how you work out, how you move your body is by your social activity. You go to these classes, or you go to MJ's, yoga, whatever, and then, or like you go to jujitsu, and you don't go for self-care. You go because that's how you connect with people. Maybe that's the way you find a way to do these healthful, say, activities that are good for you, but more aligned with your values.
Yeah. Yeah. Like we talked about, like now we've identified a why that will work,
right?
That will stick, and that will, and work and stick are two terrible words, really, will connect to something that matters to you.
Right.
You'll spend more time practicing things that matter to you. And that's what we're after. I think, I love the exercise. I think you've convinced me. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again soon. Yeah. And I think on the next podcast, we'll talk about it, because I'm interested to see what I come up with now.
Cotton candy, water slides.
Water slides is probably never going away. I'm just throwing it out there. I do love them.
Great. Well, if you found this interesting, let us know. We always love the engagement and all the kind of comments and love that we receive. We will get you next time. Be sure to like, share, or follow too. There's some follow button on Spotify, so click that. The numbers go up. It's kind of cool. So that would be helpful too. Appreciate the support. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.